Testing.
Good morning.
Good
Tuesday,
morning.
June 17th. As Jack pointed out to me, 30th episode. It's amazing.
Not one fist fight.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to look at the Bay Nature article again. I know we looked at it last week, but there's so much in there.
Bay Denatured magazine.
Denatured. And before we do that, we're going to have some fun with some commercials. One is an intentional parody. It's the Onion. And then the other one is still a parody, but didn't mean to be. And it's actually a commercial that I saw aired during the Super Bowl. And back when I saw it, I was like, we should do an entire episode making fun of Super Bowl commercials. Well, we didn't do that, but this at least gives me an excuse to revisit this ad. Once again, it's well, we'll get to it. Jack, what's happening in your world this morning? Does that remind you of anything?
Nothing. What'd you learn in school today? Nothing. The world is going on, man, but we don't have time for the answer now, do we? Yeah, I'm working on a couple things I might mention later. A big demonstration on July 4th for any activists in the Bay Area that want to be in a very public parade demonstration to protect forests from being chainsawed in order to help them and herbicided in order to heal them, which is the new thinning restoration of forests policy, which is complete nonsense. So I'm deep in that stuff. I'm deep in the weeds, as they would say.
We're going to start helping people in the same way. Let's see if that helps wake them up. Here's a glass of herbicide. Don't worry. It's the healthy kind of herbicide. Just have
the crazy thing is, for 15 years, maybe more than that, I've heard, members of the Sierra Club who, consider themselves environmentalists, and they're sincere, but they say, well, herbicides are a necessary tool in the toolkit. I love that. It's like, we're against killing things, but every once in a while you have to kill some things. And then, of course, the industry just loves that little cracking the door open, putting their industrial boot through it, and then, it's millions of gallons collectively over the course of a year of glyphosate, in Monsanto Roundup formulations, and was it triclopyr, is Dalgarlon, fancy names for this stuff, but it's all toxic, endocrine disruptors and stuff. And it's, well, we need to use it for this important mission of killing this, herbicides, plants, obviously pesticides is animals as well, but just all of it. Rachel Carson taught us in 1962, bad stuff, biocides. They kill life, don't use them, don't need them, none of it.
Yeah, and they always have a nice pre-prepared little blurb for the 3 or 4 people on the planet that bother to even ask questions at this point. And then that satisfies it for most of those people. It's like, oh, okay, they had an answer. Of course they have an answer prepared. Hey, I noticed that you were spraying this stuff and it's turning everything orange and it's dissolving in front of my eyes. Is that possibly going to be bad for my children or my dogs? Oh no, it's non-glyphosate, blah blah blah. I'm like, oh, okay, well then it's healthy. And I've said this before. Does anyone remember the government assuring our troops that Agent Orange was fine as the forest melted right next to them?
Or the ultimate example is, let's walk the troops toward the mushroom cloud after the atomic tests in the desert, and see how that goes.
But there was a prepared answer, so.
Well, we're not sure it's bad for you. We're going to find out, though.
No, it just brings life to an end. I'm not sure why you would have any health concerns.
So it's such a tricky, such a nettlesome discussion. But back to our overall theme of, critical thinking, folks, and common sense. Don't jettison them. And at the same time, God knows I'm meeting my share of people who do their own research, the new phrase. I heard RFK Jr. talk about red dye number 2 in my dog food's feces while consuming it off the back of a brainworm or whatever. It sound pretty reasonable to me. So I don't know an answer to this stuff other than to get people to think and talk and use common sense as well as science, science, science. I love science. I believe in science. It's a new word like grocery.
Right. Let's wake everybody up with this entertaining bit from The Onion. And we'll talk about it a little bit afterward.
Great. Run. Go
Buy
to
a
the
bag
tape.
of fucking carrots and you eat them the way you'd normally buy a bag of fucking carrots and you eat them the way you'd normally eat a package of hot dogs, okay? If you usually stand in front of an open fridge door shoving them in your fat face cold, well then just do that with a carrot. It's that fucking simple. Jesus Christ.
According to AIDS, Hoyer is hoping to build on recent initiatives, including the Maybe Don't Melt Cheese Over Every Meal project and Breathe Between Bites. What Are You, a Pack of Animals program.
Great writing.
Can I play it again?
Please. Yeah, no, it's great writing, great acting, short and sweet.
Buy a
in and
bag
out.
of fucking carrots and you eat them the way you'd normally eat a package of hot dogs, okay? If you usually stand in front of an open fridge door shoving them in your fat face cold, well then just do that with a carrot. It's that fucking simple. Jesus Christ.
According to AIDS, Hoyer is hoping to build on recent initiatives, including the Maybe Don't Melt Cheese Over Every Meal project and Breathe Between Bites. What Are You, a Pack of Animals program.
Let's read. Let me blow this up. I want to read a couple of the fine details here. Oh, that's not what I wanted.
While you're messing with that, what I love about it, I just, as a would-be writer, I just so appreciate just the subtlety of good writing, which AI can't do yet, which is he's not the FDA commissioner, he's the deputy commissioner. Because that sounds more reasonable. He's a deputy commissioner, not needed, but just perfect. Start by eating, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go one day without dip. Don't eat the whole goddamn pizza.
Foods high in fat make you fat, Einstein.
This is going to go great with the commercial that I have prepared. Start by eating half as much.
No good can come of a buffet.
By the way, buffets especially, even before I turned vegan, buffets are so offensive just to the rest of the planet. Like, here, humans, we're going to provide it for you and just eat until you can't move and then eat some more. It's just the planet dying. Wait until you are hungry.
Well, that's, you know what? I take issue with that. That is literally un-American.
Right.
And the final, I'm not even sure what it is, but Cool Ranch flavor is disgusting. Do you know what Cool Ranch is as opposed to just ranch flavor?
I remember it. Is that a Doritos thing?
I'm not the guy to ask. I have my sugar addictions or whatever, but it ain't that stuff. I don't know what's in those bags of chemistry set chemicals.
I actually think I had woken up to just how poisonous junk food was, even before the videos of Doritos bursting into flame came onto the internet.
I mean, the funny thing is, like, I was actually talking with an intelligent friend of mine yesterday, a fellow, liberal guy who reads the New York Times, and he was saying, well, Jack, but, RFK's kind of nuts and all that stuff, but he's going to get rid of red dye number 12 or 2 or whatever it is. And I'm like, really, Richard? Is that really you think he's going to do it? B, you think it's going to mean anything? C, you think the industry doesn't just rename the chemical or adjust the chemistry a little bit, so by the FDA, which they have in their pocket anyway, they can just reading this list of things, if RFK read this literal list of satiric stuff from The Onion and tried to put half of them in effect, that would be way more effective. And of course, he's not going to do a damn thing because he's part of the industry at this point, looking at power, not actually getting anything accomplished.
The dumbing down of the human race. While RFK is talking about getting rid of red dye, we have on Shark Week. This is not an exaggeration. We have on Shark Week actual biologists dumping red ink dye into the ocean and turning to the camera and telling them that that's going to get the great whites going. Not making it up. First of all,
why are they doing that?
Pollution.
Why are they doing that? What's the supposed reason?
They're reenacting what it would be like if a whale carcass exploded or something. And red ink dye is a perfect. And The show did very, very well.
It's not even, as I used to say, and still say, the cliche of rearranging deck chairs in a Titanic. It's sort of like looking at frayed nylon webbing on a deck chair on our Titanic ship of civilization state, heading toward the climate cliff of the Flat Earth Society. I'm rather blending my metaphors there, but yeah, it's enough to make you want to do a podcast about it.
Charles, do you know who Charles Barkley is?
Yeah, I actually do, although I'm not a big sports guy, but of course, famous black basketball player. No, I was going to do a Trump joke on racism. Forget it. I'm going to stay safe of that stuff. Go ahead. What about Charles Barkley?
Well, it was very important for you to point out that he was black, so maybe we need to address your race issues.
Yes, definitely.
I'm colorblind. Until you said that, I didn't know he was black.
And it's important to know that he is, because I'm white.
So he's one of the guys that still says politically incorrect things, and he was making fun of the size of women in San Antonio. And he says on camera, "I've got 2 words for you to practice. I'm full." Stop putting food in your mouth. You don't need it. Which, by the way, this says, "Wait until you are hungry again." One of the lines here. We could do an entire show about re-educating your body into understanding that it is, in fact, satisfied, rather than kind of just going from one comatose post-feeding state into the next one. Because when you start to come out of that, you interpret that as, oh, I better start feeding again.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. And I've fantasized writing a diet book, which would be the last diet book you'll ever need. And it's like 4 pages. That's it. And the whole thing is just blank for, reflections and notes. Because it's, exercise daily, eat a variety of whole, unprocessed foods. And, we're vegan, so cut out the animal products, which is a really good thing for you to do for your health anyway. I mean, it ain't rocket science. It's so ain't rocket science. But of course, there's a whole industry getting people to find the latest craze. And then, of course, people eat out of boredom. I mean, God knows I do all this stuff or have done it.
Absolutely. And then I see people doing that to their dogs because they don't want to actually take care of their dogs. So they use food as the stimulation replacement for actual stimulation. And hey, what do you know? The dogs are obese and unhealthy because they are forced into mimicking the lifestyle of their owners, which is a sedentary life based on food rewards. Anyway, I want to move into the Super Bowl commercial, and I'll set the table here a little bit, how well it goes with that onion joke. They're presenting the simple ways that you can actually start to alleviate the problems that you're inflicting upon yourself. And here's this commercial that actually reflects how people are approaching obesity problems. And I thought it starts out by talking about the reality of obesity being a serious health issue in the country. And I'm like, wow, are we actually going to address the issue facing the country and do it in a positive way? No. But here we go.
Nothing's broken. It's not our bodies. It's the system. Welcome to obesity. Obesity is.
You streaming this thing off the web right now, or you have it on your computer?
From my computer.
Oh, interesting.
What are you doing?
Please stand by while Skyler messes with operating difficulties. Someone pointed out I have a radio voice.
It's America's deadliest. Obesity is America's deadliest epidemic.
This is America.
74% of us are overweight, and obesity leads to 500,000 deaths each year.
Why, you just have to stop eating, Jimmy.
This is America.
Something's broken. It's not our bodies. It's the system. Welcome to Weight Loss in America.
Like and subscribe.
A $160 billion industry that feeds on our failure.
Yeah.
There are medications that work, but they're priced for profits, not patients.
This is America.
This system wasn't built to help us. It was built to keep us sick and stuck. But not anymore. Hims & Hers offers life-changing weight loss medications they're affordable.
All right, so I'm going to stop there before we get flagged, or it's probably already too late. But let's go back to this little commercial clip of the little boy.
Obesity is America's deadliest epidemic.
This is America.
74% of us are overweight, and obesity leads to 500,000 deaths each year.
Why, you just have to stop eating, Jimmy.
All right, right there. Like, instead of introducing the idea of responsible eating or changing your diet, here's the victimhood mentality being served to you on a platter. Oh, well, what do you want me to do? Stop eating? Let's just jump to that.
Put us back on the screen, would you? I mean, assuming you, unless you're going to keep showing clips, in which case don't. But just yeah, thanks. So what's your point with that critique?
That's the type of overdramatic response I hear from people that don't want to engage in discipline, which means just stop putting bad things in your mouth. Here's a commercial saying, oh, what is it, a nurse speaking to a child? I guess you're just going to have to stop eating. I mean, that's, you know, if you don't want to be obese, the only option is to just stop eating, or Wonderful Hymns is going to provide you with medication. So you can keep eating all you want and take pills. And what's astonishing is that this commercial is acknowledging that the system is meant to keep you unhealthy. And then they act like they're going to provide a solution. No, you're providing a pill that's going to allow people to achieve the illusion of weight loss or health while not doing the things that they actually need to do, which is exercise, change their diet, etc.
So I'm watching this for the first time to the audience. So I don't know what this is that I'm watching and where this is going and what this is an ad for. So you're saying it's offering
it's another pill. It's another weight loss pill.
This is a weight loss drug commercial.
Yes.
How long is this entire commercial?
It's only like another 15 seconds, I think.
Would you play it out then?
Yeah, I'm just trying to keep us from getting.
Well, here we are. I mean, we're not on Nature Debunked yet, but or Nature magazine. But it's fine. Let's finish the thought. So just
copyright strike comes later, Jack.
This is America.
Something's broken. It's not our bodies. It's the system.
It is your bodies. I'm sorry.
Well, and I would say, and the system. Yeah, it's complex actually.
Welcome to Weight Loss in America.
Like and subscribe.
A $160 billion industry that feeds on our failure.
Why is that in there? What's that trying to say?
I guess it's Chat GPT decided to throw in, feeding. So they pulled a clip of a wild animal feeding. And by the way, a retired nurse just texted me and said, nurses don't say that to kids. Apologize to nurses. So this is an ad, Lynn, if you're still listening, of course. And you can text to me, or you can put if you want to put it in the chat so more people can see it, you're welcome to do that, your choice. But yeah, this is all a bogus ad, and I'm just seeing it for the first time too, along with the audience, trying to figure out what it is we're looking at.
Yeah, that's not our commercial. That's not our.
Good morning, audience. Wow. Oh, there's people here. Thank you for throwing that up there, Skyler.
Sure. Let's take a pause and acknowledge people.
Check out our lovely audience.
Let's see. Paula was first in saying good morning, followed by Corinne. Paula says, I love the onion. Awesome. An honest doubter, welcome back. This just in, RFK promises to add liquefied tallow.
It's like he's joking, right? I have to double check in my head.
That's the sad reality of today. You really don't know.
Yeah.
Corinne says, I read a piece in the New York Times about all the new types of ticks and tick-borne diseases, and one of the new infections causes people to be allergic to red meat. Huh.
Really?
It is interesting that I've noticed a new tick species, and you just got to wonder what causes things like this to happen. And you know what humans do, back to what we were saying at the beginning of the show. Well, we're going to spray a new type of pesticide, which got rid of the animals that were supposed to be there. And then something else happens.
This is such a, God, it's its own show, of course. And we're kind of spending 20 minutes on it, which is okay. It's an important topic, but one meal a day is excellent is one comment from Honest Dealer. Paula agrees. Their entire company, meaning this one, is based on taking a pill instead of asserting willpower. That's true. As long as someone is profiting, it works, from Paula. And I'm not sure, and your mind, as long as something is profiting and it works in your mind. I don't quite get the connection here, but in any case, just to give add a little compassion here, which I do want to do before we get assailed by the audience of thousands who will be outraged on two thin vegans picking on obesity. I have a dear friend who struggles with this very issue and keeping the weight off, and he's, he balloons up 30 or 40 or 50 pounds and drops it and is back up. And he, like me, uses food when he's sad to sort of, console. And he doesn't exercise as much as regularly. And so, he's a friend and he suffers. And he was on Wegovy, I think, is one of them. And then there's another drug that's basically, another company's formulation. And he lost 35 pounds by taking this pill and feels better about himself. And it gives him motivation. And he doesn't feel so, like this is futile, because it's not, forcing him before these drugs into I have to change my behavior. I have to figure out some regular exercise regime that works. It doesn't injure his older body. He's my age now, technically a senior citizen. So I really do want to just add a little bit of compassion for people. Although, yes, Skyler, of course, the system is incredibly broken. The industry is pushing this stuff on us. Doctors will say, oh, you're not going to change, so here's this pill, or keep your, cholesterol down with this other drug. And it's just a whole friggin' messed up system. But yes, willpower and discipline and deciding I want to do something and I'm going to quit cigarettes and apply discipline and willpower is part of it too. But it's all of that, and it's complicated. And I think we're done. We had a good show. Bye, everyone.
You lost me with the two last lines about your friend, where force him into changing his diet or an exercise routine.
I'm just saying
how terrible.
Of course, that again, you and I, we always disagree on the point. It's kind of the delivery or the I don't know, the mood of it, for lack of a better word, which is, yeah, of course it comes down to discipline and willpower. But, do you sort of say, get off your ass and stop that? Just stop eating. Well, not that a nurse says that, Lynn, but yeah, that's true. But, in the here and now, if you're in a relationship and you live with somebody who's struggling with whatever the addiction is, it's really breaking habits. We're talking about habits of belief of, that cows heal the land, and that cutting down forests will make you safe from wildfire danger. And you hear that enough, you think that's true. And it's hard to change your thinking and change your beliefs. We humans are stuck in our ways.
We've also become very, very good at making dramatic, emotional speeches that justify continuing to do what we already wanted to do. Or, yeah. Oh, that's just how I express myself. You're being an asshole. Don't label it as, oh, it's just how I express myself. No, stop being a fucking asshole. And, I used to wonder, I was like, geez, can we actually talk about obesity because of the people that are watching that might be obese? And like, wait a minute. There's only a 25% chance, if we had the entire human race watching, that they wouldn't be. That's how bad things are. Stop. It's not how we're supposed to be. And blame your parents, blame genetics, blame the system. We're not changing. Maybe that's what people need to wake up. We're not heading toward improvements or success. Why isn't that alarming anyone? While simultaneously, just a coincidence, we are being told more than ever that we are carnivorous predators and should be eating lots of meat.
Well, that's always been there, right? That's our tradition. Talk about habit. And then,
wait. We don't eat nearly as much meat as we used to, and this country still glorified barbecues and your steak dinners, but now we eat it around the clock. And guess how much thinner and healthier we were? It's like, people might think that you and I are saying, oh, if you eat meat, you'll die. No, just like I can drink alcohol and I don't die.
And smoke some cigarettes.
Yeah. Right. But you keep doing it more and more and more, and you're going to die sooner. And you don't look good, and you're hurting the planet. And now you're taking pills in order to continue eating something that you shouldn't be eating, and you're killing the planet. And by the way, the pharmaceuticals are also killing the planet in their own way.
So for your point of pharmaceuticals, and Paula, because she just wrote it twice in two separate texts and wants to get it across, and I hear you, lady. Thanks for being there. She writes one word, profit. And then later she writes another word, profit. And, this goes back for me, kind of capitalism has its little tendrils into everything that's wrong with our society, because if we can monetize, we're going to keep at it. And I really like honest doubters comment. I think it's almost entirely habit. Change your habit for 3 days and you will be reacclimated. I will say you'll be redeemed, you'll be reborn. I totally agree. That's what I talk about with so much stuff. We are creatures of habit, habits of thought, habits of our behavior. And if you can, to Skyler's point, assert your willpower, discipline, like get motivated, like I'm going to really stop this bad habit I'm in for 3 days, you really can be relieved of so much of that urgency, that urge to do something that is bad for you, whether it's eating or smoking or drinking or what have you. Creatures of habit, to be sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Marty, blame is on the food pyramid. Boy, I sure spent some time during my early years of moving away from meat and dairy, reflecting on the posters that were on the walls as we stood in line. I don't know if it was this way for you, but we stood in long lines in the hallways of our schools waiting to get into the cafeteria. And I remember the posters being right next to my face with meat and dairy at the very top.
Yep. And that's because of, to quote Paula, profit. Exactly. Industry, even back then. I mean, for me, I was, going to public school in the city, in New York City in the 1960s. And there was the poster. I remember it was this, I wasn't a photographer, my parents were, but I wasn't taking pictures. It was this beautiful blue studio background. Now I would call it a studio set. 3 glasses of milk, 3 tall glasses of milk a day, drinking the milk of another species, another mammal that I don't need, in a school for impressionable children.
Yeah.
That's industry contorting, corrupting government back in 1960. That was probably around 1966, 67. Think about that, how far back that is, 60 years ago.
And again, I want people to understand, this was in the Midwest. Chicken was a vegetable, we ate a pretty good amount of meat, just not the way that people eat meat now.
I'm Jewish. Chicken is more than a vegetable. It's love.
But even from a family where we obviously looked at meat as the main course, I remember it being pushed. You got to eat your vegetables. You got to eat your greens. There was an acknowledgement of the health that came with it. Hey, you might not enjoy it as much as the steak in front of you, but this is important. You need to do this. And I almost feel like we're now at the point, the meat industry or people's dedication to being unhealthy or an addiction. I actually think that there's a fair amount of addiction involved in consuming meat. Now it's to the point to where people are almost trying to pretend that like you shouldn't be eating vegetables, and we are in fact this lion. We are closer to this lion than we are to herbivores, is the amount of delusion that I feel like we've reached.
Meaning, just to be clear, because that's, I'm a simple guy, you're saying that is the opposite of the truth.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
We'll do an entire show about it, but I did an interesting video that, of course, I never released, showing the energy pyramid and how the larger number of the population of a species, the lower down you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be closer to the producer level. Like there's tons of plants, tons of grass, things like that, and then you get your secondary consumers, and then at the top. The smallest populations are your top predators, an apex predator. There aren't very many of them. Like there's a relatively even at their peak, lions were a relatively small percentage of the animal population. Great white sharks, like the ocean would not function correctly if great white sharks were in the same numbers of sardines, for example. There's a reason that it happens that way. Here, human beings, however, want to eat the way that lions do and have the population of producers and secondary consumers. That does not work.
Yeah, yeah. Not with 340 million Americans and 8 billion people. By the way, Leah just jumped in, and Leah, we did cover more than what you're hearing right now. So on this topic, which is a hot one, I've already mentioned your name about, not fat shaming and such, but yeah. So since you're listening at the moment, before you leave, would you talk this way about alcoholics? Meaning the just stop simple thing. It's addiction and not just habit and not just profit. It's about the deep-seated pain most people are in. Absolutely true. And it's all of that. It's a very deep and complicated topic. And we'll have you on as a guest and we can do it a three-way. Be good to have a woman in on this as well. Not just two thin white guys.
Well, sometimes people obviously already have a feeling about something and then they insert an argument that didn't exist. I don't think neither of us said that this was exclusively a laziness problem.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Leah didn't. She just tuned in. She wasn't here for the last 15 minutes. So we're covering more of it, Leah. It's not just one comment, of course. So let's see. Honest data. I would. For each person represents their own unique issues and challenges to break their longstanding habits, but I still believe it's largely habit. Yeah, I mean, it's all of these things, and it varies with person to person. I mean, this is why our podcast isn't a 60-second or 90-second friggin' TikTok. You can't cover truth for the most part. You can touch on something. You can't cover truth in 90 seconds. You can just crack a subject, suck people in, and then hopefully have a longer conversation like this. And I appreciate the comments, guys. I really do. Because it is all of these factors. And for some people, they're really creatures of habit and they're addicted. For other people, they're in tremendous pain and they use food to soothe. I know a friend like this, and it's probably the way. For me, it doesn't manifest as overweight, but I'm sad or a date doesn't go or whatever. I'll come home and I'll look forward to eating something, using food as a soothing. And then some people are, God. Anyway,
Well,
it's a lot of factors.
I would absolutely talk this way about an alcoholic. I mean, I probably was on the verge. And guess where it starts with? Habit. How do addictions start? With habit. I mean, the two are very connected.
And I would say it starts, to Leah's point, about pain. I mean, that's anyone whose addiction is trying to assuage their pain, and then that becomes the habit because it does work. Sure. While you're eating, or while you're drinking, while you're smoking, the pain is diminished, but you're not addressing the cause of the pain, and that's a whole deep subject right there, of course.
Yeah.
So, about Denatured, Bay Denatured magazine. But here we are. I don't mind going down the rabbit holes with folks as long as it's good talk and, encourages people to think, oh, wow. What am I looking at there, Skyler? That looks like Point Reyes Seashore and McClure's Eye Ranch.
It is McClure. It's an interesting angle of it, though, because I'm confused about this photo. What direction is that from? That's not the elk fence, is it? Is that just a ranch?
No, I know exactly. I've taken this photograph myself. I know exactly where this is. This is looking across from the Abbott's Lagoon parking lot. So before you get to McClure, who will be on your left, this is the fence line showing. Oh wait, yeah. That's right. That's what I'm thinking it is. How about this? It's funny. It is. It has to be, because if you move to the right down the road, then McClure's will be on your left, which we're seeing here in the distance. That's my understanding. Is that right? God, it's funny.
I don't know. Unfortunately.
Wait a second. You know what? I take it. I'm not sure now because I don't see that there's a fence from Abbott's Lagoon parking lot where cattle graze on the left. Cattle don't graze on the right, but then there's also a trail that you walk to get to Abbott's Lagoon, which is tucked on the left there. This has to be. It is a strange angle, though, because also the height is throwing me off. It's like a drone shot. There's no hillside there to see up that high.
Well, what you don't see in that photo is the caption, which says, when cattle were removed from a pasture at Tamales Point, grassland turned into woody coastal scrub. I'm going to stop. And then it does say the McClure Ranch, which sold its 650 dairy cows in 2021, is seen on the horizon. So it is McClure. The angle is strange to me, but there's a lot of things that are strange to me because I see some things inside of what I guess they're proposing as a negative, which is really interesting. That it's the native habitat on the right, but a lot of what you're seeing in there is not native plants. And we'll go back to when cattle were removed from a pasture at Tamales Point, grassland turned into woody coastal scrub. Jack, you've mentioned how the word scrub seems to have negativity associated with it.
Yep.
And
Like the word brush.
This seems to be doing the same thing.
Brush is something you can clear or masticate or poison. But if you say coffeeberry plant, then, oh, it's a good thing. It's a plant. I mean, the connotations of words are killer. In this case, literally, you can clear brush, clear understory vegetation, vegetation management. Those things don't have emotional hooks. So we can kill those things and dismiss them by saying we're going to, dismiss them, kill them.
So whether people consider scrub to be negative or not, let me drop this in there for people to digest before we go on. The park staff had to do a new study and reassess what the carry capacity was inside of Tamales, the elk reserve, because the habitat improved so much by removing the cattle, and it started to heal. So that shows you by itself that it was an improvement for nature, an improvement for wildlife. And yet what was coming back? This coastal scrub, this woody coastal. How dare plant life have woodiness to it?
Well, it's like I hear Douglas firs encroaching upon a grasslands. We have to cut back the invasive Douglas firs, which is complete nonsense.
Well, they here. I had this prepared. So the caption under this is look at how trees have encroached upon what was once pasture. And again, it's being presented as a negative. Like, what am I reading Cattle Rancher Daily, or am I reading Bay Nature? I mean, you're upset that trees.
Thank you for showing this. I want to stay on this, folks. This is really key. I'm really glad, Skyler, you put this up. So on the left side, I really want to underline this. This is a huge thing for people to understand, both in the reality of the ecology and then the words used to mislead people, to lie to them, to fool them. And Bay Nature, which is why I refuse to call it by its name, it's Bay Denatured. In every case I can think of, except, oh, look at the pretty bird. They are pro-cattle, pro-chemicals, pro-management, pro-grazing, just awful magazine editorially. Time and again, they never fail to disappoint. So on the left, the big patch kind of center top left is a pasture where cows graze. So that's all grass or probably dirt in the summertime. And then on the right, once the cows are removed, now you can see more vegetation. Looks like a model train set vegetation, but that is, from the caption you just read, trees growing to fill the grassland. A wonderful healing evolution, and they're calling it encroachment because they're biased, as Skyler was saying. I'm just spelling it out with too many words, as I love to do. They're biased for cattle. So if we remove cattle pasture, then the terrible plant that's doing that is encroaching. Trees encroach on a pasture, which of course is a decimation of land by cow.
You know that, the planet has 30% of its original forests, and yet, did you know that the human race is facing an invasive tree problem?
Where have you read that? Not in Bay Denatured, somewhere else or everywhere?
I'm saying it before they do.
Right. Well, right now people are, the thing I'm working on, because Point Reyes is sort of in a holding pattern sort of at the moment, is teaching people trees are not the enemy. Trees are not a wildfire, fuel load, overgrown danger we need to manage and kill and cut back and thin and all these euphemisms. It's insane. In a time of climate crisis, caused in large part by deforestation, all of the agencies I'm going to name now, all these acronyms, are actively promoting cutting down trees and forests. But they'll say we're removing, I love this, removing the dead trees in a forest. Doesn't that sound good? They're dead trees, so there's no value, which is not true. They have tremendous value in a forest. They're future soil and insect food and bird food and animal habitat.
Let me quote George.
Please.
65% of species require dead wood during their lifetime. It's a part of life. Trees, it's not God being stupid and saying, shit, I didn't think about what would happen if a branch falls or if a tree dies. It's part of the process. Humans, in your arrogance to think that, oh shit, nature just didn't think about that part. Thank God humans came along to start managing the planet. I mean, the stupidity of that alone just is mind-blowing. You got to stop and think that you have a better idea of what trees are supposed to be doing.
And that narrative is so widespread now that we need to manage the wild. You said the word God. I, of course, as you know, prefer the word nature, but whatever you call it.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. But that it needs managing, that it needs
I'm trying to appeal to the Trumpsters out there that pretend that they're Christians.
Yeah. I just want to let that land for a moment.
Antichrist worshippers.
Can't we just stick on nature? Do we have to go anti-religion and anti-Christianity and anti-Trump in one compact sentence, Skyler?
Hey, listen, I'm not going to be anti-religion, because if you actually follow Jesus's teachings, this would be a peaceful planet. My point is that Trumpsters are the opposite of Jesus Christ's teachings while pretending that they are Christians.
Yeah, I had a bumper sticker on my car in San Francisco when I lived there, on my, of course, Volvo, which said, God, protect me from your followers. Isn't that wonderful? So Marty says they're removing so much of the dead wood for biofuel. It's worse than that, my friend, which is, actually, there's a woman named Abby who's really educated me about biofuels and the biomass industry. I didn't know anything about it. I kind of didn't want to, because that's a whole nother giant depressing subject. But they're actually masticating all sorts of living plants, which they call understory vegetation and brush, and live trees and dead trees, basically clear cutting forests in order to burn it, to ship it, to turn it into wood pellets in factories here. There's a push and effort to do one in Stockton, because the Port of Oakland knew better and said, no, we don't want to support that industry, and we don't want to have the filth from a wood pellet factory in the Port of Oakland. So they're pushing for the Port of Stockton. I've been one of just kind of new to the issue, but saying, no, terrible, terrible, terrible. And then they ship the slash, the destroyed forest, overseas in cargo ships to burn in, get this, coal plants in Europe and Asia. And it's a dirtier fuel than burning coal, because of course they're destroying a forest, which is a carbon sequestration, gold mine, to put it in human terms, so people care about it because it's gold, versus nature, which is far more valuable than gold, as any Native American tribal member could tell you. Pre-fall humans in Eden we're 100% plant-based indeed. And Paul, of course, more malls, please. I need to buy. I'm still not satisfied. I need more things.
Well, you think about what do a lot of politicians tell us? It's like, we got to boost the economy. I remember after 9/11, George Bush's big speech to the world was, keep buying. Don't let them stop you from being consumers.
Be an American, go shopping and support the world. Yeah.
If you stop buying, they've won and our freedoms are gone.
I remember how absurd that was then, but that's so many years ago now. I appreciate it even more as I see.
You remember this clearly then?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I remember clearly.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and that was back when we thought he was bad, because he was. But now, oh, how I wish for George Boner again.
No, actually, he said, well, this is a different show, but he set the stage for Trump by giving corporations the power that they have, and then began to just buy politicians. I mean, at first it was just the oil industry that got Bush in. But anyway, I'm going down somewhere that we didn't mean to go. Yeah. But it is an honest doubter. I'm curious about your background, because as someone raised in a Christian household and who knew the Bible and read it a lot, I got to tell you, Eden did sound like Adam and Eve went around plucking apples off of the tree, and caring for the animals, not hunting them, not murdering God's creations because we're carnivores. But then you got the rest of the Old Testament in which God wants people to sacrifice animals to him on an altar, and your wealth was measured by livestock. So this goes way back. It's definitely confusing, mixed messages.
I assume you did watch, or have you not yet seen the movie Christspiracy, which delves into this issue?
No.
I don't know what you'd make of it. I wasn't raised in that tradition. So for me, it was interesting to listen to, but it's very complicated, no easy answers. And ultimately it's like, oh, what wonderful stories and tales and myths and legends. It's not truth for me. It never was taught to me that way. So I was kind of looking at it from afar, trying to make some sense of the discussions about what Christ was and what he advocated, and whether he was, a money changer or an animal protector, and, on and on it goes. Speculation.
Yeah. And I know Bill Maher did a show called Religious, and
Religulous.
Yeah, I never saw it, but I know he trashed religion, but now he's kissed the ring of a guy whose platform is based on false religion.
Well, he was just revealing to us the great truth that, hey, Donald Trump can be charming when he wants to. Who knew? What an amazing revelation, Bill. Thank you for that. I hope you get to keep your show by kissing that orange a-hole. I'm sorry, not kissing. That's going too far. Just licking, I think. Sniffing and licking.
An honest doubter says, I went to Jesuit high school, so I know a good bit. I believe all traditional religions are idolatry, though. Well, yeah, a lot of it is.
I'm an idolater, but it's an idolater of Mother Nature and creation, not as I see it put there by a White Testament God floating in a cloud, but just and it's funny. I had a Christian friend from third grade who I'm still in touch with occasionally, and he would say, "Jack, this is so interesting. I'd be curious what you think of this, both you, Skyler, and the listeners." But he said to me, "Jack, he made fun of me for my naked tree hugging photographs, of course, but he said they were beautiful, and then said, you're confusing God with the manifestations of God, meaning the trees are manifestations of God. They're not God." And I thought that was so interesting, just that he was making a distinction based on what I was saying.
Corinne says, the word of the Lord was written by humans. Well, that was God speaking through humans, but if you want, but no, point taken. I understand. Absolutely.
I, of course, agree with Corinne, but that's why I'm not I'm George Carlin's routine did it for me. He talked about the issue of, as he called it, not just religion, but organized religion is what he has trouble with. People can believe what they believe, but organized religion with its rules and dogma, that's the thing I have the most trouble with.
13 minutes left. Let's get to some more denatured.
Yes. Thank you.
So that I can see this better, I'm going to make us smaller. There's so many lines to read.
Go for it.
The historic D Ranch, for instance, was once a significant part of the Marin County dairy industry, producing 2% of the GDP.
Right. Significant part of it. Didn't say what significant, 1% is a significant part. It can be measured. It's a
while costing 100 times that in taxpayer subsidies.
Exactly.
Built near Drake's Beach between 1862 and 1872 and abandoned in the early 2000s after its lease expired. Oh, that's one of them that we wanted the Park Service to return to nature, and instead they started letting other ranchers use it.
Okay.
Its home is now colonized by mice and termites.
I'm surprised they used the term colonized instead of infested.
Okay, so if anyone watched my interview with the people, the poor modern day slaves living on Mendoza Ranch,
the ranch workers,
that's how the current housing is too. And these loved slaves that are exploited by these ranchers were forced to live in termite conditions with raccoons under the floorboards and moths on the wall because they could get away with it, because these wonderful Trump supporting ranchers are hiring undocumented citizens for the very reason that you can force them to live in housing as shitty as this abandoned ranch housing, which of course the point of Bay Nature is to say, look what'll happen if the ranchers leave. And of course my point is, it's what's happening while they're there.
It's what's happening while they're there. Well, also, it goes on. This whole paragraph is like, oh, the poor buildings are rotting away. How terrible. No mention of the fact, oh, the poor landscape, which is destroyed by what this ranch building does and represents.
I don't know. I love tripping on barbed wire personally.
It's aggrandizing the human construction while ignoring desecrated Mother Nature. And I do want to, Honest Downer had a good salient comment. He's correct, meaning my third grade friend. God is active, present, here as you read this. The transcendent beingness. I like that word. All else but this active, present beingness is just post hoc, a reflection of it. So that's the manifestation of the unmanifest. And I do it from a more metaphysical perspective, but I agree with that. There's the unmanifest first, and then it manifests on Earth, one of the dimensions. So how's that for some Marin speak, which I actually believe, as much as I like to poke fun of myself for believing it. Thank you. Back to our regularly scheduled non-religious program.
Mold is munching the gypsum board, rotting studs and joists. Water has snuck beneath failing roof shingles.
Keep going. It gets better. It's such an aggrandizement of the created by man.
Rotting studs and joists. Water has snuck beneath failing roof shingles. Windows are boarded up. A lupin bush entangles a broken light post. Built in 1938 by craftsman Clementi Angeli of Olema. I gotta stop.
Yeah. No, it's wonderful. I mean, who doesn't love a craftsman? But this is
so the first thing I'm thinking of as they describe what happens when human created structures aren't constantly maintained, which by the way is another topic. We enslave ourselves by separating ourselves from something that already worked by building things, and then we've got you got your pressure washers and treating wood and replacing everything that you built. Because it was never as good as the original design that nature had provided for every other living species on the planet. But I just have to ask, who was spending time thinking about the rotting wood at D Ranch before this article came out and made it sound like a fucking tragedy?
Yeah.
Anybody? And I'm talking to all of you people that read that line and said, oh shit, this is terrible. Really? When did you think about it? Prior to that stupid sentence. And a lupin bush. No, not a native plant in a national park. Not a native plant in a national park. The ranch is abandoned, people. What do you want to happen?
Keep going.
Go away. He couldn't resist.
No comment. No reason for that.
That was entertaining.
The important thing, it was entertaining for me, Skyler. That's the point of this show. This whole thing is to entertain me. Because I am the manifest.
You're gonna prepare next week's show, by the way.
that's my penance for hijinks here.
And just for variety.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. It says Tule elk now free to roam, graze in an empty pasture. Algae floats in.
Isn't that terrible? I mean, geez, all these terrible things.
The poor Tule elk are now animals. The Tule elk don't have the cows to be with anymore. It's so sad. What would they do without the cows?
But I want to acknowledge one thing that I said last week when we were going through this. The article confused me because sometimes the lines sounded like they were, in fact, defending nature and pointing out that some good things were happening, and then it would turn around and condemn the exact same things. I don't know what they were trying to do.
I do.
Okay.
I can explain it to you. Well, it's a built-in contradiction because ranchers, don't you see, love nature. They help nature. They steward the land. So they have to adore parts of it, even as they explain that they're not hurting nature at all. And in fact, if wild nature takes over, it's bad. It's an inherent contradiction. And we see it in this bizarre writing. It's all over the place because you're trying to do two things that are contradictory.
Doesn't it work out great that humans have been brainwashed into thinking that trees are a problem, and the reason that the planet is on fire is the existence of trees, even though we only, as I said earlier, we have 30% of the forests that we once had, and yet we have more fires than ever. But it works out great when you see this line about trees moving into what was former ranch land. And I was thinking about the absurdity of thinking that more trees is a bad thing, until you remember that people do think trees are bad now. And even in neighborhoods, it's not just the thinning of forests. People's approach to hardening their homes is to buy a bigger air conditioner while chopping down the nature provided shade that the wonderful giant tree that took 100 years to grow in that neighborhood was providing. Nah.
Yeah.
Kill the tree, more concrete, more heat, but let's increase the noise pollution and energy consumption with a bigger air conditioner to counter the fact that we just destroyed a living cooling agent.
You know those, and I mean a cooling agent to be sure, and beautiful, and makes the neighborhood quiet. I mean, it does so much service. In fact, to just pop that back, I just want to read this in the paragraph, the bottom paragraph in the middle of it. It says invasive eucalyptus trees, meaning they're from Australia, are consuming the biodiverse meadows of what was once the Texera Ranch. I mean, that is so loaded with confusion. Invasive eucalyptus trees, many people consider them invasive because they were brought in 150, 160 years ago from Australia. But do trees of any kind, of course, I love eucalyptus trees. I think they're wonderful in every way. They consume a meadow, meaning at what pace do they consume? How quickly do trees grow? And eucalyptus trees are fast growing and sprouting, but it's just, and of course, it's a biodiverse meadow. I don't know what that means, of a ranch where cows have grazed. I guess because of all the European plants, which some people also call invasive. That's biodiversity, a variety of species of plants that die out. You know, as the stuff you were pointing out to me recently, the purple thistle and the yellow star thistle and the oat grass, all this stuff brought in for the cows.
Well, again, I'm going to make fun of all the people who read that line and nodded their heads. Where were you for the last half century complaining about the trees, the eucalyptus trees? Because the eucalyptus trees have been there ever since other white people came and said, the trees that are here aren't going to work for us. We want to bring in these trees for industry. Okay, maybe go back to then and start complaining about the eucalyptus trees. Not now, when barbed wire filled, weed filled, trampled dirt pasture now has trees in it. I guess again, like you said, I don't think trees just invade. It's not like the Lord of the Rings. They picked up their roots and moved it in a new area.
But you know, that thinking is so dominant. I won't use his name because I respect him and like him both too much. But there's an environmentalist living in the Berkeley Hills, and you know, we had a conversation about specifically eucalyptus trees, and he said, "Yeah, I would remove them all if I could." I'm like, wow, tens of thousands of mature trees you'd remove because, and I was like, but they're up on the hillside. There's literally tens of thousands of trees in the East Bay Hills that were planted there, you know, a century and a half ago, and they're giant carbon sinks. Shade makers, capture fog, animal habitat, oxygen producers, beautification. The hillside is covered with tree cover. And it's only the human mind that says that species is wrong. It shouldn't be there. It's not doing anything bad. He would say crowding out the good. He would say crowding out the oak trees. But that's simplistic and also inaccurate. And it's not making oak trees go. Well, we can go into it if you want. Separate show.
Let's have Jack become a botanist on the show.
I'm sorry?
Let's
let Jack become a botanist on the show. Is that you being sarcastic with your Skyjack partner here, buddy? Is that what's going on now? Come on.
We're on the same page that you don't just go and start destroying in order to solve a supposed problem.
Exactly.
Because you let the trees be there for God knows how long, and other creatures there have adjusted accordingly because they're trying to survive. But if I had my druthers, I would rather what naturally occurred there without humans be there. Can that be accomplished, and how do you accomplish it in a nice way? Because as we've both seen, usually the human plan is destroy and then move on.
So which is why you and I agree, along with everybody else in our group, first things first, at Point Reyes Seashore, the specific local example we are pretty well versed in, stop doing the destructive stuff. Get all the cows out, not the Nature Conservancy compromise, which will move us further down, the goal, down the field to our objective of no cows, but don't fix it by grazing with more cows again. But we can all agree, stop doing the destruction first.
I got to tell you, the Nature Conservancy was around San Francisco trying to get people to stop and talk to them and donate. And I was avoiding them like the plague because they basically negotiated to keep bringing in the problem. And that's that part by itself. Not to mention the ranchers getting paid again is pretty horrifying. Like, I included that at the end of the Shame of Point Reyes almost as a joke. I was like, Jesus, what it takes to get the ranchers out of here is paying them millions of dollars again, even though we already did it and they didn't leave, then so be it, because that's how bad they are. Let's just get rid of them. And that kind of got accomplished, except that the Nature Conservancy negotiated to bring cattle back in. Now, it means you do not understand the problem with cattle in nature, or you don't care.
Well, this is the glass half empty, half full. It is certainly as half empty as you point out. And then I point out the half full part, which is they're not paid with taxpayer dollars this time. They're paid with Nature Conservancy donations from private citizens who wanted to do it. Nothing is set in stone as far as how they're going to manage. It's funny. There's agreement from both sides of the pro and anti-cattle commentators that exactly what they're going to do, how much cattle grazing, in what fashion, at what expense, where, is not written in stone. That's mutable. So we can
how much is required to cause damage.
Well, of course. I mean, as you've seen and documented, one cow walking along can do a lot. One cow can do damage, let alone hundreds moved around.
I should have been. See, if I would have anticipated this, I actually have a clip sent to me from one of our allies who went out and already filmed beef cattle in the Tule Elk Reserve and showed how they smashed things down, even smashing coyote brush, which, by the way, guess what? If this isn't a lesson for people about the difference between animals that evolved with their surroundings versus ones that were thrust in there, and by the way, happened to weigh another 1,000 fucking pounds, you don't see where Tule elk move being a path of destruction. It's actually, if you want to stop and appreciate nature, because I have run into some thick areas out there where it got hard for me to move, and I stopped and I thought, how do the Tule elk do this? But they do. You don't have to have the answer as a human being. We always think that we have to have the answer and do a study. The bottom line is that they're accomplishing it. Maybe you should just sit back and say, damn, that's amazing.
Thank you for that reminder that, like, I know, what can we do? Let's see, there's grasses that we want to have eaten in the park, and there's Tule elk that are newly free. What could be the solution? I know, we'll bring in cows. Rather than just have more Tule elk graze and, oh God. Yeah. I mean, just so many people say, well, there's no predators anymore, which is true. Most of the predators have been, killed, whether it's wolves, most of the bears, most of the mountain lions. Right.
The nature-loving ranchers.
Right. Who also, I guess they're probably the top predator at this point with their guns, occasionally taking, shots at Tule elk and such, or predators, of course, picking on the cows. But anyway, a lot of that's going to end. That's why I still come away saying I'm pleased with what happened, and we got to keep advocating to get all the cows out and keep doing what we're doing here, which is educating folks. And thanks to the audience who are here today at 10:03, just a little over an hour. And maybe, it's funny, just ideas for shows for next week. We'll throw stuff out to the audience right here. But I kind of think to bring George on and talk about bison again. We kind of did that, but, it always can be done more and differently and betterer, to the difference between bison and cows on the land.
You should watch my interviews with him on that very topic.
Yeah, I have been meaning to. I do want to do that. George Werthner is a real teacher of mine in rangeland management. Listen to me about cows and cattle, and also about wildland fires. He's been a great teacher for
Do you want to see the end of the commercial, the medical?
Yes, please.
All right.
Yes, please.
We'll end it with looking at the end of the.
They're medications that work, but they're priced for profits, not patients.
This is is America.
This system wasn't built to help us. It was built to keep us sick and stuck.
Okay, so are we acknowledging that sickness comes along with obesity? Like, for everyone that just thinks that we're fat shaming because we're not obese, like, let's just talk about the health problem. You know, the lack of health comes with it.
But not anymore. Hims and Hers offers life-changing weight loss medications. They're affordable, doctor-trusted, and formulated in the USA.
Oh, well, what else do you need to know?
Is this thing keep going? I'm not sure how long this damn thing is.
It's only a little bit more.
You get a treatment plan designed by a doctor to fit your body, goals, and lifestyle. You deserve to feel great in your body. This is the future of healthcare. This is Hims and Hers.
So I got to ask.
What? Whoa. I'm seeing this for the first time, Skyler, as is the audience. That commercial we've been playing with here for the length of the show, they're selling a vial of some solution, a drug that you drink, and it'll end your problems. Is that the deal?
Yeah, I guess. Sorry, I thought that was clear already.
Well, you say it, but to see it for real, produced for millions of dollars, is quite another matter than saying, "Oh, do you see that commercial weight loss drug?" And you go, "Yeah, whatever," and then you like, "Oh my God."
Well, the insanity of them pointing out that it's a lie that the system is producing pills that keep you sick, and then their solution is another pill, and we're just supposed to believe that this one is different than the other ones. But I also have the question, are these people going to remain in their large form while feeling good, or are you in fact saying this is for weight loss? And aren't pills that tell people, hey, we're going to help you lose weight fat shaming? Because what's wrong with the way that they are?
Oh, it's all mixed up in there. Yeah. Love yourself the way you are. I mean, there was a lot of pushback for a time, and still part of our culture, which is, hey, if I'm heavy, that, mind your own business. Don't shame me for that. Fair enough. So here, Honest Doubter throws in a great one. How about a show exploring the journey of the Point Reyes the Point Reyes cow milk, from the milking process, where does that happen exactly, to the buyers, who are they, making products, which ones? Wow.
You know what? Maybe we'll do that, because I've started that project. It's not a small one, but I've found the mass. I actually found that they do in some of the coming from those Point Reyes ranches. So the people that get on this local food kick, like, what? Do you have any idea what you're talking about? You have
No,
any
they
idea what
don't.
you're talking about? Because these ranchers are selling their products far and wide.
Well, and also local food. I mean, sure, buy locally and know your rancher and support your know your farmer, not your rancher. Know your local farmer who grows plant crops. Oh, by the way, hey, Jeffrey Phillips. Sup, y'all. So he's do you know Jeffrey, another vegan activist podcaster? I've been on his show. He's a good dude. I'm sorry, I lost my point to your point that you just made.
Here, I'll keep playing the commercial and it'll bring it back to you.
Or not.
Do you want?
Yeah, go. Finish up.
Join us in the fight for a healthier America.
Okay,
I want to see that vial again. Could you back it up the last 10 seconds of the commercial? I just love that all my problems will be solved if I get that serum drunk or ingested or under my tongue. I just
look at
want some.
Look at the rest of the hymns. Look at the rest of the hymns ads that come on next.
Wow.
Probably because you were never meant to be conceived in the first place.
Wait a sec. There's a drug I can take so I can get to an orgasm? I thought that's what the porn industry is for. Come on. I'm confused now. Which is it? Can I just see the last few seconds of that thing?
You mean replay it?
Yeah, please.
An
Honest Doubter apparently knows Jeff and says the most
based vegan.
Maybe biased. Maybe the biased is that's what you mean. Honest Doubter, the most biased vegan on the internet. Highly recommended Jeff's channel.
I doubt if he means biased. That's not usually a compliment, is it?
I don't know. Honest Doubter is going to write while we're listening. We're having a conversation through the interwebs and commenting. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But
which allows us to be blobs on our couches and not be lonely.
Join us us in the fight for a healthier America.
No, but I want to see the. I'm sorry.
To fit your body, goals, and lifestyle. You deserve to feel great in your body. This is the future of healthcare. This is Hims and Hers. Join us in the fight for a healthier America.
You know, Jack, I don't think I ever got the detail of the vial before. So they're actually injecting. They actually are. This is intravenous.
I didn't know this product existed until you showed this thing to me now. I have no idea.
Yeah, based in reality.
I've never heard that expression. That's a new one, I guess, because I'm grandpa now, the most based vegan on the internet. Based.
Yeah, Jack made his living in the advertising world, writing content.
Well, not anymore, apparently. God. Aware of the reality behind the propaganda. Cool. Based. It's what the there you go. It's what the cool kids say. Yeah, exactly. And they don't even like I know I'm grandpa when I like reach out to shake someone's hand, like, hello, how are you? It's darn good to meet you. Versus, fist bumps and all sorts of elaborate other ways of greeting people without actually touching someone's hand because of, COVID and humans.
Hey, Jeff, I just put the call-in link up if you want to come in here and give everyone a few seconds of what it's like to be on your podcast.
Great idea. Thank you, Skyler.
And then we're going to end it. We got to keep them wanting more, right? Although we have more, as Jack revealed to you, I am broadcasting from Jack's studios today. And so we have some leeway to go a little bit longer. Could actually read more than one paragraph of the article.
And Corinne said, Skyler, you need to be part of our street skit, which is performance art on 4th of July parade here in Marin. So I will talk to you about that too. I don't assume, Corinne, it's Skyler's cup of tea. He's more the lone wolf creator of art, and occasionally, if I behave myself, he won't punch me out, and we can do our show together. But yeah, we're doing a big demonstration on the 4th of July. So people listening to this are in Marin or the Bay Area and want to be part of a 12 to 15 people. I don't think we'll be more than 15, but we could have more assigned roles. And we're going to be marching in a parade with a very attention-getting banner that says, "Just say no, deforestation," with a picture of a park ranger with a chainsaw for a head. Chainsaw coming out of his head, and other costumes, including hazmat suits and stuff. And then there's 2 judges panels, and we'll give performances of 60 seconds we're choreographing for those judges. Yeah, it's a whole street theater thing, which I'm having fun figuring out with a group of wonderful activists. So camaraderie on the streets together to take action to educate the public. Don't cut down trees to prevent wildfires. Nonsense. So I guess Jeff is not able to jump in. And we, of course, as she would have talked about the whole. Yeah, I mean, that's another show of just about diet and obesity and drugs and weight loss. And that is, that certainly merits one full show. And Lee would be good to have on for that, for some balance from our maybe tougher talk on it.
I guess because I'm old, or just because current production value sucks in entertainment, but I've watched a lot of older shows, and it's interesting who represented the overweight person in some of those shows. Like,
How do you mean?
Like there weren't very many, first of all, on characters on a show. There weren't very many, first of all. But the other thing is that the person, because they would say things on the show, they'd call him the overweight person. They'd call him or make a joke or make fun of him, and he'd rib him back. It was just part of it. It wasn't crazy to rib somebody for being skinny or for being fat or being short or being tall. But my takeaway is that by today's standards, the people that used to get made fun of for being overweight aren't even considered overweight anymore. So don't tell me that things haven't changed drastically.
It's a deep topic and complicated. I've thought that thought, but then I realized there's so many built-in contradictions in our society. Meaning, you can be shamed for being overweight, just like always, then there's definitely part of our culture, another thread in the tapestry of, F you. Doesn't matter what I look like. How dare you? And that's, fat shaming, and it's judgmental. And that's a true thread as well. And there's certain athletes that are big and bulky, and it's considered a positive thing. And it was just not one thing. It really is complex. It's such a complex thing in our society. And I think there's still the huge, what I'll call the Beverly Hills aspect to it, which is if you're not fit and thin and have white teeth, you will be made fun of, especially in the media. So it's all those things and a lot more I'm not mentioning.
I'm going to share a story about someone who represents a lot of the things I was talking about earlier. Just provide an emotional story, or, and then it justifies your behavior. Because I had a cousin whose weight would balloon up. And the crazy thing is that he was capable of getting it off. And his house just had cabinets full of junk food and stuff he shouldn't be eating. And it's like, where's the actual attempt to have success here when you surround yourself with failure, the chance to fail? And I was semi new into veganism when I came over, and I was like, hey, I'm picking up all this great fresh produce, and we're going to grill it, because he and I used to like to grill, and we're going to grill it, except that we're going to have vegetables, and I'm going to show you how good it can be. We can still enjoy ourselves. And I show up with all this, and it's a big deal for me to buy the stuff. And I get there, and he's eating cheese and chili at 11 a.m. And I was like, what are you doing? We're about to eat. And he said, well, I've been fasting all day. And fasting? It's 11 a.m. But this is the thing that people have an idea about how much you should be eating, and you need to be eating constantly, and how much your body needs. And at this point, I don't even eat until noon now. And I have an active morning. I'll lift weights, I'll go running, I'll pull weeds. We don't need it, people.
Well, you and I are I eat to live. I don't live to eat. And I come from New York and Jewish culture, where it's very much food centered. And when people come over, you open the fridge and you feed them. If you love people, you give them food. What's the matter for you? Your skin and bones, you should eat. Italian, some of that as well, and more a thicker cultural strand, to call it that. But it's also back to the Paul's comment about profit. And an honest doubter writes very intelligently, it's never been more difficult to be healthy due to the immense amount of money and research spent by food producers to scientifically addict people by flavor and addictive ingredients. I mean, that was true of cigarettes, not to mention, sugar and salt are addictive flavors. I mean, heck, I got a cup of, decaf coffee here I'm drinking in the morning, and I put a teaspoonful of my thing at the moment is brown sugar. Completely unnecessary. I do it because I'm kind of addicted to
Buy
sugar.
a bag of
God.
You want to end with what we started? That's fine.
No, that's not what I'm doing.
Okay. Well, anyway, I put a teaspoon of sugar in my coffee, and I find it's like a drug in that, well, it's not quite sweet enough. I'll put a little bit more. And if I'm not using your word discipline, I'll end up putting a teaspoon and a half, and then 2 teaspoons of sugar. And I grew up drinking soda by the liter. I mean, like a 64-ounce jug they used to make. And
my God, Jack.
And it was sugar water with carbonation and chemicals and coloring. And it was never satisfying because my body's not getting nutrients. So I would keep drinking more of it. I was deep into the American culture of drinking that crap. And I was active and healthy and, lower middle class, so we could afford good food. But it was, 3 64-ounce jugs of Coke for whatever it was, $5 or something. I mean, and so to the point here of honest doubter, which is that's an industry advertising me as a kid on all the Saturday morning cartoon shows to drink this crap. And it's colorful with colored cartoon characters.
You're desensitizing your taste buds to where you need more of it. And you can apply that to multiple things. Like an apple, if your mouth is functioning properly, tastes pretty amazing. But if you're accustomed to just being assaulted, I think Louis C.K., the comedian, made this comparison with everything piled onto a Dorito, which there's so much happening there that you can barely comprehend it unless you've been eating them for a long time in your life, and you need to be like what are meth heads. The meth heads have to keep doing meth in order to feel alive, because normal life doesn't feel like a life anymore. And we could apply it to black coffee. You said, oh, I've got to put sugar in my coffee. Get a nice quality coffee and learn to enjoy the complex flavors that you're burying under the sugar.
And this is why I do have compassion for people who struggle with weight issues or any addiction. I've got my own addictions. They're not as extreme, but they're there, and I'm aware of them. And anyway, it's a whole nother show. And
who I don't pick on is people who are out trying. Like I see an overweight person out on a walk or a jog, but you know what I see 99% of the time? People engaging in the very behavior that's causing their problem. And like some of it, I just can't believe. Like I didn't make my own coffee the other morning and went into a place to get a coffee, and this guy who's the size of 17 human beings and can barely move is dumping the entire canister of sugar into his coffee. And I'm like, I'm not going to sympathize with this.
I've seen people doing that with the sugar, going like this. Yeah, it's and you know what? I just want to point out, this coffee, I don't need this coffee. This itself is an addiction. It's me getting my a little bit of caffeine. I'm drinking decaf, but I'm getting a little bit of caffeine, and I like the ritual and the habit. And I don't consider it a problem because it's 1 cup of coffee in a day, sometimes 2. I used to do 4 to 5 cups a day in New York, and I know people who did literally 10 cups. They were drinking it throughout the day at their office job in advertising, and that's better than cocaine. But it's near universal. I mean, show me someone who doesn't have some sort of addiction. Maybe it's under control and it's not ruining their life, or they're spending a ton of money on it. But
it's also being very spoiled. Like coffee is an indulgence. I don't even think I'm addicted. Like I can do my day without coffee some days, but I've learned to enjoy it.
Right.
And so, when I stayed out in Point Reyes, I thought about that when I made myself, after a very cold night, hot liquid to put into my body. And I was right next to those babies that spent the night in cold isolation and would not be experiencing the warm milk of their mother going into their bodies, or even feeling her warm body near them. That's just evil. And that's the industry that you fucking people are celebrating and are mad that native plants are going to replace the evil of the ranchers.
So I think it's a great idea to talk about the suggestion to, a glass of cow's milk from Point Reyes, the journey. But and the only reason I'm hesitating, it's a great topic, and I'm going to make a note of it for a future show. It just, to do that properly takes a little bit of research and time. And I'm very busy this week preparing for three different events coming up. So I'm always feeling a pressure of time to do the things I want to do. Anyway, we are 10:20 now, so we've run on as we do.
You know what? I will end it with that onion commercial, and we'll just say goodbye.
We'll say goodbye now and then end with how we started, folks. Thanks very much for tuning in. Please check out this podcast. Share it on this. If you are watching it, of course, in the YouTube channel, Watching Humans. Everything is always posted. Every show before and after is posted on my treespiritproject.com, as you see on the screen, /podcasts. Honest Taylor says, look in a caffeinated green tea called, instead of acidic, air dried instead of high heat. Yeah, I hear you, and sure. And I also mix it up with tea, or sometimes I use unsweetened cocoa. And it's not an issue for me. I'm much more, the things I put my attention on is teaching people cows are abused and don't eat the products from a cow, whether it's flesh or milk, and don't cut down trees for any reason. Aggrandize, worship, revere all trees everywhere, no matter where they're from, no matter how old, no matter what species, no matter if they're dead. And don't buy the whole thinning management argument, which is going through every state and county and federal agency now, demonizing trees. That's where I put my attention. So we drift into this weird topic, but there you have it.
All right, here's the end.
Buy a bag of fucking carrots and you eat them the way you'd normally eat a package. Buy a bag of fucking carrots and you eat them the way you'd normally eat a package of hot dogs, okay? You usually stand in front of an open fridge door, shoving them in your fat face.
By the way, do people have any idea how much cheaper carrots are than hot dogs? The things that you're supposed to be eating. This is another show, and we've touched on it, but this idea that it's too expensive to be a vegan. I was vegan before I was vegan because of my budget. I couldn't afford the meat.
Rice and beans and veggies and tofu and lentils and peas and yeah, exactly.
My roommate loved to make a joke about it. He'd be like, "You come home with 3 bags of groceries and spent $5."
Right. Well, yeah. Well, you're eating oatmeal, not bacon and eggs for breakfast, right? Yeah.
Right. I don't spend the rest of my day recovering from breakfast and my clogged arteries.
Well, then just do that with a carrot. It's that fucking simple. Jesus Christ.
According to aides, Hoyer is hoping to build on recent initiatives, including the Maybe Don't Melt Cheese Over Every Meal project and Breathe Between Bites. What are you, a pack of